So you would imagine that the Democrat campaign mafia would have some sort of introspection about how they lost. Well, they're on a PR damage tour right now. Jen O'Malley Dillon and David Plouffe are doing the rounds. This is Miss Jen on Pod Save America, trying to explain away how and why Kamala Harris lost. We were just talking about humility. Maybe they could use a little bit of that. Play cut 52 of Jen O'Malley Dillon.
On the Biden question, we of course got that everywhere we went. And we knew what the data was. We knew we had to show her as her own person and point to the future and not try to rehash the past. She also felt that she was part of the administration. And unless we said something like, well, I would have handled the border completely differently, we were never going to satisfy anybody. We were trying to tell a story and give the impression that she was different without pointing to a specific issue.
Can I ask this, why not a specific issue? Is this something she was unwilling to do? I mean, you worried it would feel disingenuous?
She felt like she was part of the administration, so why should she look back and cherry pick some things that she would have done differently when she was part of it? She had tremendous loyalty to President Biden.
Cherry pick things you wouldn't. Oh, this is just delicious. Let's keep going. Play cut 54.
And he had an army of super PACs that were so coordinated. I'm sure there's some legal way they were coordinated, but
I'm sure it was legal.
Yes, right. Yeah. Or illegal.
Yes.
But they, from the beginning, they were, week to week, all, one super PAC would take a couple weeks and hit Pennsylvania, and then the next one would come in and do the same, and they were all coordinated. We didn't have the benefit of that.
Wait, hold on. Wait, time out. What happened to all your outside money? Not only did you guys have $1.5 billion in hard money, what happened to the multiple $1 billion outside? And shame on you, Jen O'Malley Dillon, even suggesting we do something illegal. What exactly illegal would we have been doing? That you're legally allowed to coordinate activity with campaigns now, according to the Mark Elias FEC ruling? You guys are so smug, you guys are so self-righteous that you can't actually acknowledge that we out-organized you. You were leaking to the press, Turning Point doesn't know what they're doing. No, we chased more ballots than you. We registered more voters than you. Can I play that again? I'm sorry, that's as good as it gets. I got to play that again just for my own personal delight. She's saying, oh, wow, next thing you know, one super PAC comes into Pennsylvania, one comes into North Carolina. Yeah, that's right. We came in and we out-organized you, the ragtag rebels of Turning Point that were made fun of and smeared and slandered by everyone in the media. We went up against all the outside groups on the left. Where did all those outside groups go exactly? All these national action networks and BLM and local community groups and the C3s and the C4s and the super PACs. Let's play that again. Play cut 54.
And he had an army of super PACs that were so coordinated. I'm sure there's some legal way they were coordinated, but
I'm sure it was legal.
Yes, right. Yeah. Or illegal.
Yes. But they, from the beginning, they were, week to week, all, one super PAC would take a couple weeks and hit Pennsylvania, and then the next one would come in and do the same, and they were all coordinated. We didn't have the benefit of that.
Man, she's just acknowledging that. Turning Point beat her. Elon Musk beat her. We out-organized the organizers. It's just such a lie, by the way. They have nothing but outside groups. They have like 600 outside groups. Maybe the unions didn't actually want to go work for you, Jen O'Malley Dillon. It seems as if the Democrat Party, who seems they're always they claim to be on the cutting edge of culture, have just come to realize that more Americans are getting news from social media and podcasting. I mean, it's hard for me to believe they were this naive, but walk me through how they got to a place where they have lost such significant ground in digital content creation and podcasting.
I mean, you're in independent media. I've been in independent media ever since I left the media outlet I founded when it wouldn't let me publish negative reporting about Joe Biden before the 2020 election. Any of us could see this coming. The data has been so clear. Their ratings have been in collapse and free fall. Every poll shows that Americans trust and like corporate media almost less than like pedophiles and syphilis. And so the trends have been clear for so long. But when your entire self-identity, your entire self-esteem depends upon the position and the prestige that you think it brings with inside of a collapsing institution, you're always going to be the last people to believe that the institution is collapsing. I think the most traumatizing part of this election for them was, again, not just that Trump won, but that so many non-white voters, the people who they think they're the benevolent leaders of, who they think they own, who they think they have the right to have eternal support, migrated in huge numbers away from their candidate to Donald Trump, despite constantly saying Trump was a Nazi, was going to put them in camps. Remember, the whole last week of the convention was the media claiming that Trump had a Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden.
Yes,
they were convinced
correct.
Tony Hinchcliffe's joke was going to swing the election because Puerto Ricans would rise up with Latinos led by Jennifer Lopez and Big Bunny or Bad Bunny or whoever. And none of that happened. And so when you think that you speak and are so connected to a group of people who turn around and show that they don't see the world remotely the way you see it, they don't care what you see, they don't listen to what you see, this is almost too much for even them to be in denial any longer. And that's why you see all these, oh my God, how are we going to create our own Joe Rogan?
Yeah, but is there something to the format where leftists, not liberals, struggle in long-form podcasting? They struggle in unscripted environments. Is there something to the new left? And I don't mean traditional liberal values. I mean one that has a primary focus on censorship and war and regime politics that stays away from that sort of inquiry towards truth or long-form dialogue. Is it the format that also doesn't fit their politics?
I definitely see what you mean. At the same time, as somebody who has long been associated with the left, who was kind of steeped in a civil libertarianism with which the left was once most associated, you see a lot of the right-wing movements, at least as shaped and led by Donald Trump, having commandeered a lot of these issues quite successfully. The only people who talk anymore about free speech versus censorship
of course, you're
are
right.
on the right. The only people who talk anymore about the evils of the CIA and the FBI and the US security state are people on the right, not the left. Same with the war machine. I don't think it's so much the topics. I think it's the fact that there's so much forced orthodoxy within liberal left discourse that people just can't speak freely. They're constantly afraid of their own shadows. You saw that with Kamala Harris. You see that with left-wing media in general. So people sense that. If you're not someone speaking freely, if you're petrified of saying the wrong word, you seem inauthentic. And it's not a faction that anyone wants to be a part of that's so repressed and petrified. And Trump came along and blew through every single taboo and limit without the slightest concern, the slightest apology. And that opened up so much space on the right. And I think that's what made it so much more powerful, so much more able to connect with the ordinary people that the left had a claim on for so long.
How, I mean, and when I mean the new left, I don't mean traditional liberal values. I mean totalitarian impulses and, international warmongering, values that you and I don't hold. What I'm curious, though, is what will their next move be? Do you see the Democrat Party liberalizing itself towards one and re-embracing a free speech, dialogue, expression, agree to disagree, kind of the promise of the Bill of Rights? Or is there going to be the even further rise of this kind of woke wing? I know I'm asking you to speculate and predict, but as a reporter, I'm sure you've thought deeply about this. What is next for the current composition of the American Democrat Party?
I don't think that's hard. I don't think it's that hard to predict. And I also don't think that this distinction that you're drawing that has always been valid between kind of establishment liberalism and the left is really that wide anymore, or even that real. The left of the 1960s protesting against the Vietnam War and the establishment was always a little different than Lyndon Johnson and that whole gang that pursued the Vietnam War. Those distinctions have eroded in favor of this idea that you cannot trust ordinary people. You can trust elites with expertise, but you can't trust ordinary people. And this whole industry that was concocted out of nowhere, creating a fake credential of people being disinformation agents, that was all reaction, first of all, to the UK approval of Brexit, but way more so the big trauma for liberals of Donald Trump beating Hillary Clinton in 2016. And they concluded from that, the only hope they have to continue to control people and their thoughts is to create systems to further control, censor, and manipulate public opinion through the internet more. And I think with this crushing defeat and them being at such a loss in the wilderness to figure out how to get back, they're going to resort to increasingly authoritarian tactics that they already believe in and just kind of double and triple down on them, not just as American liberals, but with the Western left that very much believes in this also.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction, is that if this current government they might not have control of, but they still control a lot of states, and almost all of Europe has embraced this new orthodoxy. It's very dangerous and pernicious.